If your child's been battling a chronic inflammatory condition, autoimmune challenges, constant infections, or gut issues, the likely chance that you've been told to manage it is almost guaranteed if you're going to traditional doctors. They tell you to manage their symptoms, they manage the flare ups, all the while you're managing their diet at home. The management of chronic illness and autoimmune conditions in the conventional medical model, unfortunately, is just taking fistfuls of medication daily. While management of an autoimmune disorder in a functional medicine standpoint, you're just taking fistfuls of vitamins, supplements, minerals, or other homeopathic remedies. Neither of the two are asking any important questions like, why is your child's immune system itself not calming down in the first place? Where the vagus nerve today is going to be our conversation. Today's video is constructed specifically for parents who are exhausted and fed up with chasing those symptoms, who have already tried the medical routine of prescriptions, who have tried the restrictive diets, the supplements, and all the specialist appointments that do not dive deep into understanding why your child's body is not healing itself. We're going to explain the vagus nerve and actually discuss how and why it serves as the master regulator of your child's immune system. We're going to explore at contributing causes like birth trauma, early stressors that will disrupt vagal function long before these symptoms become obvious to you or their practitioner, and why chronic inflammation continues to resurface despite doing everything correct. You're also going to learn how insight scanning technology can reveal that blood work, lab testing, and other GI maps often miss. We're also going to discuss how neurologically focused chiropractic care works to restore vagal function from inside out. Now, the constant pattern that I see in my family practice, little baby comes in and they have had a history of colic, which goes into reflux, which goes into ear infections, one round of antibiotics followed by another. Then in school age years, the child has allergies, eczema, maybe even asthma. And then all of a sudden one day, bam, a diagnosis is landed. They've got juvenile arthritis. They have PANS or PANDAS. Now these labs reveal multiple autoimmune markers that send the family into this whole chaos of seeing specialists and more medications. At every stage, the conventional system prescribes another medication to try to suppress the symptom that is being present. Nobody, though, is looking at the long-term side effects of what this approach does. Because in reality, the child still has the illness, but they're getting more and more medication. Nobody's asking, why does my child's immune system keep overreacting and over-responding in this manner? Conventional providers will continue to blame genetics or the state of simply, I don't know. They don't dive deeper into the research, which shows that kids who receive multiple antibiotics by the age 2, they have a significantly higher likelihood of allergies, asthma, gut problems, and other autoimmune and inflammatory related conditions later in life. And the real answer is why your child's body is not resistant to the bacteria itself that's continuing to cause these issues. So we need to understand why the infection keeps happening in the first place. And when they were younger, this is a situation that should have been answered, but it's not. So we're here today. Now, one of the biggest things is that your nervous system has lost the ability to regulate. And that starts earlier than anybody suspects, which we'll be diving into. A lot of parents have heard of fight or flight response. This is the gas pedal orientation of the nervous system. But the body also has a brake pedal, which is the vagus nerve in itself. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve, meaning it comes up here at the top of the neck, and it connects the brain to the body. It communicates to the heart, the lungs, the gut, and the immune organs. Its primary driver of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest, digest, and regulate. It controls your heart rate, your breathing patterns, the digestion, the emotional regulation, and critically, it responds to the immune response within the body. Now, when it's working like God designed, it acts like the air traffic controller. It coordinates every system within the body, communicating the brain to the body and the body to the brain. Now, when it's not working properly, everything downstream, neck down, loses coordination, which includes the immune system in how it responds to an external threat. Now, there is this cholerogenic anti-inflammatory pathway, the off switch, which nobody is really talking about in our community. For more than 20 years, researchers at the Feinstein Institute of Medical Research, they made a discovery that changed our true understanding of immunity entirely. They found that the brain sends signals down the vagus nerve to tell the immune system to calm down. This is called the cholerogenic anti-inflammatory pathway. When inflammation rises inside the body, the vagus nerve should detect it. It should signal then to the brain, and the brain sends back a calming response. That response releases neurotransmitters, and within the body, it attacks the immune cells. It attaches to the immune cells in the actual spleen, and it tells them to stop producing inflammatory proteins. Now, these immune systems are built with an off switch. When the vagal signal is disrupted or disoriented, then that off switch just goes offline, and the inflammation that should have been resolved becomes chronic. Now, this particular research paper you can find online. This is something that's been documented and archived for a really long time. Now, the question that mainstream medicine consistently fails to ask: why does the vagus nerve stop working in the first place? Nobody asks this question. And this is where we refer to a perfect storm of events. It's layered, sequential stressors during key developmental windows that overwhelm a child's nervous system early in life. The first one is prenatal stress. This will affect and influence the vagus nerve development in utero. It shapes the regulation patterns way before birth even comes. So that means that while mom's pregnant with baby, if there's external stress, physically, chemically, emotionally, then the mom's nervous system literally programs how the baby's nervous system learns its environmental stressors. And this is tough because pregnancy is no longer this natural process in our environment. It's been pathologized by the medical system. Now, in certain situations, yes, thank goodness for that intervention, but for most women, their bodies are adaptable. And when there's so much stress during pregnancy, it has the potential to interrupt normal developmental pathways, even if it's missing a diagnostic expression, which means that there may be some challenges with organization and communication that may not exhibit large enough symptoms initially to extend a diagnosis. Then we look at the birth stress and the interventions that strain the brainstem, the upper cervical region, and these impact the early vagal tone function. We're talking about external stress. Let's look physically. We look at cesarean sections, extractions, vacuum extractions, forceps extractions. Then we look at the chemical part. We're looking at epidurals, Pitocin, antibiotics. All of these have the chance to affect the actual health of that newborn. And even though it happens so commonly, there's not much of an investigation to see what these interventions do long term. Then the next one is that the vagus nerve is incredibly sensitive to chemicals and toxins, which show up early in an infant's environment. Early vagal dysfunction can show up as digestive issues, sleep issues, excessive crying, frequent infections, often leading to dysregulation. Most doctors ignore it though. It's normal. They have, they have reflux. They're crying a lot, and over time, these are things that the nervous system gets stuck in a stress mode. And with symptoms being labeled separately, instead of recognizing the shared underlying pathways, you've just got a bunch of different doctors treating a bunch of different organs with a bunch of different diagnoses. Now, the natural approach that will support the vagal tone is deep breathing, cold exposure, quality sleep, omega 3s, a positive social connection, and these are really genuinely valuable options, but none of them can truly correct the foundational neurological interference. They just don't go deep enough inside the body. If subluxation at the brainstem or upper cervical spine, these transitional regions of the neurospinal system are biomechanically compromising the vagus nerve, then breathing exercises and dietary changes support a dysfunctional system rather than correcting the dysfunction itself. I want you to think of it like remodeling a home, but it's on a cracked foundation. You can put all the beautiful floors in, you can paint up the walls with fresh paint, but unfortunately, until you fix the foundation, the structure is going to keep shifting. And that's why most parents consistently tell me, we've tried everything, it helped a little bit, but our child is still struggling. There is, though, a conversational shift when we talk about suppressing symptoms with medications, and we go a little bit deeper when it comes to functional medicine that actually supports each system individually. Now, there's been a recent randomized control trial, and it followed 12 weeks of chiropractic adjustments measured objectively with markers. They used BDNF, which is a brain adaptability analysis. They looked at cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and then they looked at some inflammatory cytokines within the central to autoimmune conditions. The results showed an increase in the BDNF and a decrease in the TNF. And it improved the cortisol patterns. In the upstream physiological change, it not only suppressed the symptoms or inflammatory markers from the outside in, but it actually did it from the inside out, which is real neurophysiological change from neurologically focused chiropractic care. And it works simply by removing stress and interference inside the nervous system, and allows the nerves to do their job, which is connecting the brain and the body. Now, in order to find out, in fact, what's really happening with your child, you need to get into a neurologically based office for these insight scans. These scans really are incredible technology, and it makes us understand this dysfunction from a neurological level. So we're going to go over these scans right now to show you what it actually looks like, to give you an example what is actually happening within this analysis and where patterns of stress are residing. In order to find out, in fact, what's happening with your child, you need to get into our office at Maximize Chiropractic here in Sacramento. We need to use these insight scans to understand where the dysfunction is visible. Now, here you have an example of exactly what our scan analysis is looking at. We have some normal scans on top, and when we first start here, we look at heart rate variability. It's designed to understand activity and balance of the autonomic nervous system. Now, when we look at this, activity should be 100%, balance should be 100% between the gas pedal, between the brake pedal. When you look right here, this little boy with chronic inflammatory issues, lower than desirable activity, far shift to the gas pedal orientation, which is sympathetic dominance. His nervous system simply exhausted, underperforming, underactive, with very poor balance between both gas pedal, brake pedal orientation. This little boy's body is more susceptible to external stress that affects how his immune system responds. Now, thermography right here, this is a neurothermal. It helps us to understand temperature analysis, subluxation patterns, stress within the nervous system itself. When we look right here, you see upper cervical dysregulation, which that vagus nerve comes out from that upper cervical region. It will affect how the brain communicates to the digestive pathways, to the release of inflammatory markers within the body. It greatly infringes on how that body's nervous system can actually perform under stress. And the last scan right here is the surface EMG, which looks at energy and tone of postural muscles. See, the postural muscles are controlled by the autonomic nervous system. And when we look at this, all of this overactivity in those muscles and tissues in that upper cervical region. Now, when we look at high energy, high tone in an overactive individual whose immune system is underperforming, this causes high energy, high tone with complete dysregulation of that nervous system's function. We look at efficiency and pattern, which shows that there's very low performance. 69% is lower than desirable, and that situation causes the body to go into a stressed out state. And then, of course, we look at symmetry and lack of communication between the left and the right side of the brain. With these scans, it helps us to understand underlying stress patterns within the body, so that way we can reassess and reanalyze how things are improving every 30 days within our. If your child's living with chronic inflammation, autoimmune challenges, or a pattern of escalating immune struggles that conventional medicine keeps managing with zero resolution, it's time to put the pieces together in a different working order. The body knows exactly how to heal when interference is removed. The vagus nerve knows exactly how to regulate the immune system and finally stop its inflammation when it's free to do its job. Your child does not need more labels. They don't need more medications. They don't need more supplements. They need their nervous system functioning and regulating at their full potential. Go ahead and click on that link below. Send us a DM or schedule directly with Maximize Chiropractic in West Sacramento to get to that root cause of what's going on. Let's dig into their nervous system, find out what's going on, and from there restore function and communication so that their body can start healing itself without having to take more drugs, more supplements, more external stuff into the body, which is not getting to the root cause of their imbalance.